The first thing that you need to be thinking about is finding your hero, the hero part of your shot. And let me play our camera move here. So this is our camera move. We need to figure out what is the hero part of this shot. So I would say that this end part, this shot's a little bit easier than some shots that you could be working on, but I would say that this shot, this area right here, is the hero. This is the hero part of the shot. That's what we're leading up to. We're kind of winding through these graves in order to find this Gothic structure with this in the background. So I definitely think this is the hero part of the projection, but I am not going to be able to just do one projection for this this shot because we're moving through way too many things. So I'm going to have to come up with a secondary projection. So I would want to start with my primary hero projection, and then I will see what else I need coverage for, and then I'll set up a secondary projection that will finish out the coverage that I need. To set up the first projection, I need to do it along the camera path, right? So I'm going to want to find a good spot in the camera move and then widen the focal length. So I'm going to go, so we can see that the camera turns at this point. So it looks like probably right around here would be a good spot, because from here on, it's just a push in. So, and if there's some issue with this push in, we'll have to do a little bit of a patch projection, I think. But in this hero projection, I'm going to want to have this element and all of my trees. That's kind of the goal here. This is going to be on something separate, I think. So let's go ahead and start pushing in just a little bit. So let's say like right there. So let's select the camera, duplicate the camera, say look through selected. Now I am looking through the static camera. So what I typically do is I rename just right at the beginning that it is a projection camera, ProjCam, and I always put the frame that it came from, frame 61. So, and then down here, the focal length, I usually copy that down into the notes of the camera, just so I know what it was from. So now I'm going to change the focal length to widen up so that I can get more camera view. So I'm going to just do that to 20. That's too much. So 20. 22. There we go. So we don't have this guy. So let's go 23. Oops, excuse me, 21. There we go. So let's go 21.5. 20.5. There you go. So that what this projection, we never see the top of this this Gothic structure thing at all. What this is giving us is it gives us this full of this church building, gives us this mausoleum back there, and that gives us a good half of our shot that we need. It'll give us these trees. And so to set up our second projection, what you're going to need to do is look through the shot camera again. Excuse me. And now that you got the beginning of the hero part of the shot, now we need the secondary part of the shot, which is going to be at this part here. So if you move the camera forward just a little bit, select the camera, duplicate it, look through selected. Just because when you duplicate a camera, it automatically selects it. So if you put look through selected, then you don't need to go find it. So ProjCam frame 19. And open this guy up to, let's do that, 25 or 20. So what this is going to give me here, it's going to give me this, the edge of this, the extreme on the left side here when the camera pans by, but then it also gets me this this gravestone right here. And so yeah, so I think between those two cameras, it'll give us what we need. And but let's test it first so that we can make sure that we have enough coverage. So the first thing that we talked about considering is finding the hero part of your shot and basing your primary projection based off of that. And then whatever your primary projection doesn't cover, you set up your secondary projection. So the next thing to consider is your the focal length distortion and whether or not you should set up multiple cameras. And for this shot, I have set up 2 projection cameras, but let's say I wanted to get the whole thing in just 1 camera projection, and let's see how that goes. So this is the first projection that I had set up. So let's talk about what would this look like if I just wanted to get the whole shot in 1 projection. So let's go ahead and select that camera and change the focal length to 10. And you see that it causes quite, you are seeing more, but it's causing more camera distortion. So let's go to 5. Right here, this is pretty extreme, but it does give us a lot more viewable, what you can see from the camera point of view, but it distorts the camera quite a bit. Not only is this difficult to paint to because of the lens distortion, but the hero section of the shot is right in here, and that is the smallest part of this whole frame. So in order to get enough resolution in this little area, you'd have to have a really, really high resolution projection image, and that has its own problems of being able to manage a gigantic Photoshop file. But then there's all kinds of wasted pixels out here because the camera is just whipping by it, and this gets a ton of resolution and this gets hardly any resolution. So it's kind of a mismanagement of the way that you're using your pixels, and giving you kind of a headache of having a gigantic Photoshop file. But that's not as big of a problem as what this is really doing, which is it's breaking the matte painting's ability to paint or to see what you get. So this looks nothing like the shot. If you set up your projections correctly, you can account for just a little bit of overscan on your frame, but you are actually seeing what the shot is going to look like. So if somebody gives you direction and they say, well, we want shine off of this, or we want this to be painted a certain way, you go in your projection and you paint it a certain way, and that is you see what you get. Um, and that is a great advantage to matte painting, as opposed to some other 3D, like fully 3D process where um, you can't directly affect this gravestone. Let's say you have to go in and you have to change the shader and change the lighting, and then it changes the image. And so they're not directly changing the pixels, but you can as a matte painter. But what's happening here is it's distorting it so much that this is not what the shot looks like. You would have to paint this up and then project it back on and look through the camera move to actually see what the shot is going to look like. So sometimes you will have to break that see what you get advantage, because the camera does not allow you to set up projections along the camera path and get the coverage that you need. So what you end up doing is not widening the focal length like this, but grabbing the camera and pulling it back in space. And like I said, you do break that see what you get advantage, but you're getting the full coverage you need, and it's not distorted. So you have to, you don't know what your shot looks like until you put it through your projection method. Have that be in Maya or Nuke or 3D Studio Max or something like that. So that's something to be aware of.